Oh, man. Yeah. Thanks, man. Exactly. You'll have so, but I can't bounce back, so. Like, I would love to really
I need to do random chat. I just want to
Bring that for one. And I'll talk a little bit more, and then I'll hand it to you guys. I asked you guys to introduce yourselves, get the microphone. That's probably important. Make sure you talk in so close to your face. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and then as soon as I hand the floor over to you guys, yeah, and then once we're done with the presentation, hopefully, give me the signal, I'll come back up again. Yeah. All right, you guys ready? Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Sam Longlet. I am the WSA Speaker of the Assembly, and today I'll be moderating this event. I'd like to first say a big thank you to everyone who is here. This is a really important discussion to have, and thank you for being here to take part in this discussion with us. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what WSA is. So this is a town hall brought to you guys by WSA. WSA is a student government here at Western. We do a lot. But in my own wheelhouse, in the legislative branch, all members at all students at Western are members of the legislative branch. All you have to do is come to our meetings, and we advocate for students and student concerns to administration, and we work on real problems that real students have. Excuse me. With that being said, I'd like to welcome up two of our guests. Give me 1 second here. First, Reverend Kathleen Robertson King, if you'd like to come up and say some words.
Thank you. My name is Reverend Kathleen Robertson King, and I'm a campus minister here on campus at a progressive campus ministry. And with me here is Dr. Mary Anderson, who is at Counseling Services. I talked with Chris Sly earlier in the week, and he asked if I would spend a little bit of time doing some grounding before getting into the meat of this meeting. So that's what I'm here to do. Thanks for being here tonight. I know that this is a topic about which there are many feelings. And before we begin, I wanted to just take some time with you to get grounded. And what that means is, first, check in with your breath. And that sounds so hokey. I know that. We talk about that all the time. But I know from my own experience and lots of students I talk to every day, when we get stressed or anxious or we're feeling afraid for any reason, the first thing that happens is we start breathing faster, and we often do not recognize it. So I'm going to invite you right now to check in with your breath, to check in with your body. Where are you holding tension? Where are you feeling those feelings in your body? And I want to take time to do that because I think we need to normalize that. Let's normalize checking in with that breath. Second, I want to encourage you now and just generally to be checking in with your friends. If you have capacity, be a really good listener for them. If you don't have capacity, that is okay and understandable. Find a kind way to express that, and then help your friends find folks who can listen. We all need to speak, and we all need to be heard. And it's okay if we don't have capacity ourselves to offer that, but there are lots of places that we can find that. Thirdly, check in with your larger community. Check in with the various circles of which you are part here on this campus. Just how are you doing in a genuine way? And be prepared for those answers. We have to take care of each other, and the best way that we can take care of each other is by asking, checking in, and being really prepared to listen to those answers. And again, if we don't have capacity for those answers, or maybe the extent of them, then we can offer to get folks resources that they might find helpful. There is a mental health fair upstairs right now. You might already know that. So avail yourself of that. That's one small kind of service that is available to you here. I think all kinds of amazing things are happening, like yoga and maybe even massages. And I think an AI cat that purrs, and I'm not making that up, that's true. So there are 2 counselors from counseling services up there as well. And there's another counselor here and she'll be staying for the duration. So you have resources. Okay, so I know I said check in with your breath and you probably thought I was going to let you off the hook and not make you try it, but guess what? I'm going to make you try it because it's really easy for us to say that it's important, but to actually practice it is even more important. So we're going to do something that's referred to often as square breathing. So you try to breathe in for 4, release for 4, breathe in again for 4, and then exhale again for 4. And I just learned from my very brilliant friend that it's actually in the exhale that we release tension, not in the inhale. So really hold on to that exhale, make it count, okay? So close your eyes if you want to, if you're comfortable doing that. Get kind of comfortable in your seat. And take a breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take another one in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for trying that with me. I appreciate it. Remember that this is an intense topic. That's obviously, we know that. But take care of yourselves. If it gets harder in here than you thought it might be, it's okay to leave. But Dr. Anderson and I were talking earlier, and we both think it's important that you at least check in with somebody before you do that, so we know you're okay, or if you need to take a friend with you, just take care of yourselves and take care of one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much. Just before I hand the floor over here to DPS, I'd like to touch on how the Q&A section will work. So if you guys notice on either side here, there are these wonderful whiteboards. They have a QR code on it. You can open up your phone, scan it on there, and that will take you to something called Slido. Slido is what we'll be using to ask questions. You all have opportunities, actually infinite opportunities to ask questions, and then your peers can vote on them, vote for what you want to see asked. And then I myself, after their presentation, will come back up here and moderate those questions, and I will ask those questions to our DPS members. And with that being said, I will go ahead and hand the floor over to you guys. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, in order to play the video, just come up, just text me, tell me when you want to play the video. I can play it for you. I'll hang right here, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Scott Merlo. I'm your chief of police here at Western. I'd like to thank the WSA for hosting this event. I think it's obviously very important, but I agree, an intense topic. And thank you for attending. And we're here for you. Our agenda tonight is for Lieutenant Bachman, who will introduce himself here in a second. He conducts and presents this type of training all over campus quite a few times a year. And he's going to present the training that he normally conducts throughout campus. Once that's done, we want to be here to answer the questions or concerns that you have. I mean, we could probably present up here all night, but I want to offer that opportunity to you guys first to answer some of the questions that have already been presented to us. And if you have questions in regards to, our preparedness, who we are, Lieutenant Bachman's presentation, please, this is the time to do it. But again, we're here for you.
Lieutenant Andrew Bachman, currently assigned as emergency management lieutenant with the police department.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Hastings, and I'm sergeant here with the Public Safety. I wear many hats, one of which is overseeing our community policing division.
Yeah, right.
I want to say something real quick.
Oh, you do?
Pause. I'll talk
Go ahead.
about here. So this video was put on by the FBI. It's the newest iteration of Run, Hide, Fight. And we'll talk more about that after the video, what it means to run, hide, or fight. This is the newest version. It's about 5 minutes in length. It takes place in a nightclub. It doesn't show any actual injury, but it's assumed. So there's going to be loud gunshots. There's going to be people running around. So if that's something that you might find disturbing, you may leave and we won't take offense to it. Afterwards, we'll talk about the guidance of run, hide, fight and what it means. And then we'll go into the question and answer. When we talk about active shooter, I really much rather be spoke about as active threat because it doesn't have to be somebody with a weapon or specifically a gun. It could be somebody that has a bat, a knife, or just can be potentially violent. You're caught in a situation. So if you think about this guidance, run, hide, fight in every situation, you don't have to stop and think, well, they don't have a gun, so what am I supposed to do? This helps you prepare to develop a survival mindset, which you should do as a course of action for anything. Be ready for a fire, be ready for a tornado, any type of event. If you think about that ahead of time, you're much more likely to be prepared and do the right thing. So with that, we'll start off with run, hide, fight.
Oh, sorry, I gotta take this.
Only the minute. Construction.
I was thinking, I'm no victim. I'm ready for this.
Applying direct pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding until we can find a tourniquet. In the meantime, turn off your phone. Make a plan to defend yourself.
His arms are tendons over the head. We got him right here.
You can survive a mass shooting if you're prepared. Remember, run, hide, or fight. Run. Wherever you go, be aware of alternate exits. Quickly and cautiously evacuate in a direction away from the attacker. Don't hesitate. Clearly visible when exiting the building. Follow all instructions from the police. Don't stop until you're sure you've reached a safe location. If there is no safe escape route, find a good hiding place. Lock and barricade the door. Silence cell phones. Prepare a defense plan. Fight. Fight only as a last resort. Use available objects as improvised weapons. Use teamwork and surprise. A coordinated ambush can incapacitate an attacker. You're fighting for your life. Don't fight fair. Stop the bleed. A victim can die of uncontrolled blood loss. 5 minutes. Apply pressure or a tourniquet to control severe bleeding. Go to fbi.gov/survive to learn more.
All right, I'm gonna prefer to stand for this. So when you look at the action, run, hide, and fight, it doesn't follow a linear progression. You might be caught in fighting first. The threat might be right with you, and you have to take immediate action to defend yourself and defend others. That's the worst case scenario, and it's the least desirable. If you can hear the threat coming from a far away, your best bet is to get out, to run as far as you can away from the threat, get away. If you can get in a car and leave and go into the next town, that's a safer option. But you might not be able to do that either. So the third option is hide or barricade yourself in a safe space, putting as much time and distance between you and the person that's doing you harm. Because the police are going to be called and we're going to come deal with it. And the longer that you can delay that person from getting to you, the better. When we get there, we'll deal with that person. So you want to think about that. And when you run, it's not just running in a straight line. If you feel the threats near you, try to zigzag, try to, make awkward movements so that person can't track you. But again, like I said, it doesn't always have to be with a firearm. If somebody presents another weapon to you and it's safe to barricade that person out, call 911, and we'll come and deal with that threat as well. This is a very hard topic to talk about. It does happen. There's a lot of other threats to think about as well, as I alluded to, tornado, fire. Really prepare your mind and think about things. Hopefully you all have a personal action plan when you go to the store. You're going to go to the store, you're going to go shopping, but what if something happens when you're at the store? What if something happens on the way to the store? You have to think about that. What happens if there's a tornado warning? What do I do? So hopefully that this information will help you. And we're available to do presentations throughout campus to any group that's affiliated with Western. Just contact our department and we'll be happy to come out and talk to your group.
Thank you very much for that presentation. With that, we can go ahead and move on to the Q&A portion of this. Just once again, as a reminder, if you wish to participate, ask questions, vote on questions, please use the QR code there. If the QR code isn't working for you, you can just type into your laptop Slido, go to the website, and then enter in that number, that 7-digit number right there. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and ask questions. I will ask questions according to what's my mouse? That is not what I wanted to do. I will ask questions according to what the most popular question is. And so with that, the first question asked by this group is there an action plan set in place for students in lecture halls? Because there is no exit in certain rooms, shouldn't professors have the doors locked during class?
The first part of that question is should the doors be locked? And then certainly a lot of lecture halls, there's the capability to lock the lecture halls. Our recommendation is that, yeah, they should probably be locked, but we understand that there's a conflict, and there always is, especially in public universities. Are we going to be open or are we going to be secure? And there is a conflict there. We have our opinion, most of us do. We think security 24/7, 365 days out of the year. This is what we think about all the time. So by securing the door, certainly you can mitigate some of those issues, and it would be our recommendation that they do, but that would have to come from the administration. I know they're looking at every option that we recommended and that some of the faculty and staff and actually the students have recommended as well. So, I mean, we look for every opportunity to enhance our security and our safety every day. What's the other part of that one?
Of course, give me one moment here to
Yeah, sorry.
go to the archive there. Is there an action set in place for students in lecture halls? Because there is no exit in certain rooms, shouldn't professors have the doors locked during class?
Is there an action plan? I mean, I think you saw it, quite frankly. I mean, we have emergency action plans for us. But for you guys, I mean, you're right. What is your action plan? As Lieutenant Bachman just said, you have to be prepared as you go into those classrooms. There's an emergency here. What can we do? What should I be doing? That's the action plan. You're right. There might only be one way out of that lecture hall. There might be two. There could be a third one behind in the back. You know where that's at. That's the action plan. If the action plan is, as Lieutenant Bachman said, if you hear something down the hall, can you secure that door? Can you hide in there? How do you call 911? I mean, it's just, you should have that plugged into your phone. I know it's 911, but yeah, I mean, how are you going to get a hold of us? I mean, you should be prepared as well. We prepare every day for this, and you should as well. But that's the action. I know I put that's a lot on you guys, but it's true. You're there. You're right in the middle of it. If it were to happen in that lecture hall, that's your environment. You're right in the middle of it. We're not. We have an action plan for our response. And we know what our plans are, and we know what we're going to do. Do you have anything to add, Lieutenant? Sure. Oh, go ahead. Go.
So I teach self-defense workshops, and I see a couple of you because you've been in number of times before. But one thing that we really try and emphasize is there's a quote, and we use it in law enforcement a lot, but I like to bring it up in our workshops as well. It's the body will not go where the mind hasn't been. And if you've been in sports, you've probably heard something to that effect. As imagining if you're hitting a ball, it's going exactly where you want it to. This is no different. So when you're in a situation right now, have that in your mind. Be mentally prepared for a situation. Because if you're mentally prepared, then you're going to be more physically prepared as well, right? There's 3 very common responses to a stressful situation: fight, flight, and freeze. And that's what we don't want to do. We don't want you to freeze.
Thank you very much. And with that, we can move on to the second question here. Do you have any advice for buildings such as Sangren Hall, where all study rooms are large glass windows and almost all the classrooms are locked? I believe it means, I'm not sure what that means, just are locked. Oh, I believe the question means, thank you, Melissa, means if like these classrooms are normally locked, as a matter of always are locked unless there's a class actively inside of it. Because I believe that's what the question means.
We again have safety on our mind 24/7. And with how we think is not necessarily how building designers or architectures think. And I just want to make that very clear that many times we have given our inputs on buildings and it's not necessarily taken. And I will leave it at that.
And I think the question in regards to probably the locked classrooms, meaning if there's an emergency, would you be able to get into those classrooms? Yeah, you're right. They are locked, and there's a reason for that as well, because there's so many classrooms around campus that if they're not being used, we do want them secure. And that's also a security enhancement. If we leave them open, a lot of people, again, they're open public buildings. That means there's a lot of rooms for people that shouldn't be here to hide. Who's going to go through those rooms after thousands of rooms, whatever, after we close at 10 o'clock. And that's just part of the enhancement. If they're not being used, we want them secure. And that's our security. Yeah, and we do a lot of property checks. The officers walk through the buildings quite a bit at night and during the day as well.
Thank you. Do you guys have anything else to add? All right. And with that, we can move on to the next question. How often are weapons found on campus and what steps are being done to prevent it?
Actually, we don't find too many weapons on campus at all. We get very, very few calls in regards to any weapons on campus. Essentially, if we're notified of it, that's usually how we come across those weapons. Somebody may call us and say, hey, we've saw an individual that may be, armed with a firearm. We'll respond. We'll investigate it. But as far as preventing, there's no real, there's no devices, there's no preventative measures in terms of devices on campus that are going to detect those firearms. It usually comes from the observations of faculty, staff, or students, or us.
Is there anything else to add? All right. Give me one sec.
I do want to add that.
Oh,
So
go ahead.
that information is also reflected in the annual security report. So we have weapons violations on campus, and those are always very low. So anytime there's a weapons violation, we have to count it for annual security statistic, either arrest or refer. So if it's a referred and there was no criminal action taken, it goes on as a referral. If it was a criminal action taken, then we would count it as an arrest, and those are all really important.
And obviously, on campus, we have a policy against weapons. So we do. And so obviously, if somebody is in possession of a weapon, that'd be a policy violation, whether it's an employee, actions will be taken. If it's a student, actions will be taken. And if it's a visitor, they'll be escorted on.
Thank you. The next question, if the MSU active shooter were to occur on campus, would we have the same response level or could we do better?
The response level in terms of law enforcement's response to it?
I believe so.
Well, here's the thing with it. That's a hard question to answer, only because I don't know the specifics necessarily of that response. I'll tell you this, it'll take a while, but MSU they'll put out an after action report, and we'll read that cover to cover, just as we do for all the major active shooting incidents, and we learn from each other. But from what I understand, the response was overwhelming, not underwhelming. And I can tell you this as well, if that happens here on campus, that response from law enforcement is going to be overwhelming. And a perfect example is I was at a meeting off campus, I don't know, was it 2-3 weeks ago, where the swatting incident occurred at Portage Northern. And it was like a bomb went off in that. I was there with a bunch of administrators from other agencies, and we were running out the door, as was every probably officer within a 30-mile radius. The response to that campus was unbelievable. Federal, local, state, county. And it's probably going to be even more of a response here. I can assure you that everybody's going to be coming from 30, 40, 50 miles. We'll get people from Lansing. We'll get people from Grand Rapids, and they're going to come until we tell them to stop coming.
You guys have anything else to add? Just for future reference, if you guys could speak a little louder into the microphones, I appreciate it. Our microphones are a little old.
Speak up and we will. Sorry.
All right, so the next question, does a situation like what just happened at MSU raise concerns about non-students on campus and the access that the general public has?
I mean, obviously, that event did occur with somebody that wasn't affiliated with MSU. And we do have people that aren't affiliated. We have guests that come up on campus. We do have access to the building. So if you have a public building like the Bernhardt Center, it's not restricted to anybody that has business here. If you go to academic buildings and you don't have a business in that building, you're not really supposed to be there. You're not visiting if you're not on tour. But those are things that we tell people to, if you see something, say something. So if it doesn't look right to you, and we do get a lot of people that report things. Say we've got somebody that's, back behind the building, we don't know what they're doing, and we'll go investigate it. And, every day we go and make contacts, and most of the time, it's no big deal. But that's why we want everybody to be vigilant. Certainly we have an open campus. It's a public university. People can come and go unless there's a restriction in the building. We have, Miller Auditorium, Waldo Stadium, Lost and Ice Arena. You have a ticket, you can come in. You're not students. So, yeah, it's a concern, but we're as vigilant as we always are.
Anything else? All right, thank you. How do you plan to address accessibility for safety measures on campus? I believe this question is referring towards disability accessibility for these safety measures.
Well, certainly we have conversations with our disability services division for students. Most of the areas on campus are, access, full access for, students and faculty and staff with disabilities. I mean, as far as procedurals, that's something that it needs to be worked out at the departmental level. So for instance, let's talk about like a tornado, watch. If you go under a tornado watch and you have somebody in your area has a disability, mobility issue, they can't get to the shelter area in a timely manner, before it turns into a warning, that's the time to start, your action plan for having that person either go down to the shelter, or if it's a fire and it's, you can anticipate it's not far away, or it is far away and there's not a lot of smoke, try to get them out of the building, have a buddy to help them out. Things like that. The same thing would be if you're caught in a situation. Do the best you can to protect that person, and if you can evacuate them, help them, assist them to get out of the building.
So again, one thing I want to touch on is before I do, self-defense workshops on campus. I just want to bring up, because it's not common knowledge. I'm currently working with the students. We were able to design a questionnaire that we sent out to, or we're in the process of sending out to students who identify as having a disability, because we're always looking at how we can make some of our programming more equitable and inclusive. So that's something that I'm working on right now. If you're more interested in learning about it, come up and talk to me afterwards. I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Do you guys have anything else to add? All right, next question. What are the mechanisms in place for other law enforcement agencies like KPDS to joint efforts? I believe it's 4 joint efforts.
Again, we train with other agencies all the time. In terms of unified command, if we have all these other agencies coming here, we work closely with each other all the time. So it's not an issue if 3 KDPS officers have to jump in with a couple of Western officers, not going to be an issue. We have basically the exact same training. We work very closely with each other. We know each other very well. And there's no hesitation for any of us working with each other. We also, when I say this, I'll say it again. If I need them, they're all coming. If they need us, we're all coming. And they know that, we know that, and we're very confident that we're going to work exceptionally well with each other. We do it all the time.
Thank you. You guys have anything else? Okay. How does DPS handle threats within a mile of campus?
Well, if it's off campus and if it's, well, I don't know what you mean necessarily mean by threat, but if there's an incident off campus and we know about it, we're there to assist in a response if they need it. We monitor it. If we know if that threat is coming to campus, we'll address that threat, whether it's sending out our emergency notifications if we need to. If we know that we have to send out a notification because it is off campus and we're aware of it, we'll also send that notification out so that our students and staff, really, and faculty that live in those areas or travel through those areas will know of that threat. And we do send quite a bit of advisories out throughout the year.
We also have an officer that is assigned to the community policing unit for Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. His name is Grant Allers. So he does a lot of programming out there. There's a lot of follow-up for investigative purposes, mainly, basically in the student areas. So he's got that connection with Western. So it's not like you're off campus and you're just separated from Western. He's bringing that into our department, into the university for, investigative purposes and mitigation.
In addition to, in 2018, throughout the county, there were about 6 different dispatch centers. We had our own, city had their own, county had their own, township, everybody had their own. So the communication between the PSAPs or dispatch centers was lacking. In 2018, we went to a centralized dispatch center. So all the 911 calls in the county go to that one center. That one center dispatches all the officers, maybe on different channels. So if there's an emergency that occurs, whether it's in the county, I don't know, Schoolcraft, Vicksburg, West Michigan, we're also notified, especially a serious event, whether it's a shooting, an armed robbery. We're notified through tones on our channel in case we didn't monitor it, that, hey, there's this incident that's occurring off campus or in the different locations. So we are aware of it. So it does help, I think, eliminate the lack of communication or the lack of knowledge for the responding agency or the surrounding agencies, so that now we know what's going on most of the time.
Thank you. Next question, where can we report suspicious activity?
So you can call dispatch, if it's a crime in progress or something that's in progress, call dispatch, a non-emergency number. If it doesn't rise to 911. 911 calls should be any type of life safety issue or crime in progress. Anything else that's not a crime in progress, call a non-emergency number, report, get a complete description of what you saw, where you saw it, what you think's going on, and we'll dispatch an officer. I can tell you every day we get dispatched to something that turns out to be nothing. And that's okay. We want everybody to feel safe. We want to be able to get out there and make contacts and make sure we're visible and everybody feels comfortable. So don't feel hesitant about reporting it. If it's something that's not in progress, I mean, you could use the DPS contact form, but that's not really made for crimes. That's more made for services. So like a lost wallet, lost my wallet, you can contact us at DPS. What's that? Training requests as well. So if you want us to come out, use the DPS contact form. But you just call 488-8911 is a non-emergency for Kalamazoo County Dispatch Authority. 488-8911. Any device, anywhere, Kalamazoo County.
And I'll just add two things, including, there's a button on there too on our website, Coffee with the Chief. You can email me. I'll have coffee or hot chocolate with you and discuss whatever you want to discuss anytime. And I'll say this too, if you have to think more than 1 second, should I call 911 or the non-emergency? Call 911. If you have to even think about it, call 911.
Thank you. How do we approach having safety conversations with individual classes? Should this planning for emergencies be a part of instructors' syllabus discussions?
Well, I would say yes, but I'm not a faculty member and then I'm not in charge of the class, but we are certainly able to come out and do programming. I've talked to a lot of first year seminars, Business 1000s, Victoria's talked to annually. So if you have a need for us to come out, one suggestion I would make to anybody that's a faculty is talk about emergency procedures. The first day, talk about where your tornado shelter is, where to go to evacuate for a fire. And then if there's some sort of incident in class, when are we going to evacuate or dismiss class? Every once in a while, we get called for a medical in a class. It does happen. Somebody can have a seizure or pass out. You know, what happens if that happens in the class? Who should be calling, whom? And that's a pretty good discussion to have first 5 minutes of the first day on each semester.
Thank you. Outside of situational prep, in what ways are lawmakers and police officers working together to help prevent gun violence and mass shootings?
It's a really good question, and it's a really hard question to answer. What have we had? 100 mass shootings so far in our nation since the first of the year. I think I read somewhere we have over 600 last year. Preventing these are very, very difficult. And I think Lieutenant Bachman, one way to prevent some of these is some of the security measures that we do have in place. If you see something, say something. If you see something suspicious, please report it. If you're concerned about somebody, whether threats they're making, call us. We conduct threat assessments throughout the year in regards to concerns people send us about students, faculty, staff. We conduct those. Lawmakers, we have plenty of laws on the books. We do. It's just difficult sometimes for us. If we could lodge more people in this county for certain crimes, that might help. If we could get more charges issued against certain individuals in this county so that we can lodge them, that might help. And we're not the only, and again, a lot of it, the courts, because of COVID, they're behind quite a bit. They're trying to catch up. I think they're still probably like 50 capital cases behind because of it. So, we're trying to catch up, but that's all part of it. We all try to come up with solutions together. It's just so difficult because guns are just so prevalent in our society.
Thank you. Moving on. What is the standard response time from DPS?
anywhere from 1 second to a couple of minutes, I guess. There's so many factors that go into that. I mean, depends on the type of call. It obviously depends on where are we when we get that call. I mean, there's times where it could be just seconds out. We could have a call, 911 call of something here at the Bernhardt Center. Obviously, our response is going to be a lot faster. But once that call gets to the dispatch center and we're dispatched, our response is immediate. And a lot of it, our arrival time is based on, quite frankly, the type of crime and how far away we are from that response. But our response, we have a very robust, visible presence on this campus with our sworn officers, whether it's bike patrol, foot patrol, vehicle patrol, they're out quite a bit. And hopefully you see the officers. You don't see them at all. Wow. We have one officer that will ride a bike every day in the winter, and he does all the time. But we're there.
All right, thank you. Next one, how do you plan on managing crowds and chaos as well as where students are supposed to gather after an event has occurred? Of course. How do you plan on managing crowds and chaos as well as where students are supposed to gather after a incident has occurred? Yes.
And so we utilize the incident command system, so immediately there'll be an incident command post where the person or persons in charge of the incident are going to be also set up, emergency operations center, which will deal with the reunification, staging areas, media areas. So there's procedures that we would follow to make sure that happens. Obviously, we get physical barricades to the crime scene, barricade that off, and coordinate centers where students can go. They have no other place to go. So it would be, depending on what the situation is, scalable.
Yes, all right. Will each department across campus be trained on active shooter procedures?
I'll answer that one again. We cannot force it. We suggest that you go to the training and we'll go anywhere you want it to. So if anybody in this room wants me to come out or our team to come out and talk further about other emergency planning and emergency incidents, we're welcome to come out. We've been doing a lot of training since about 2012. So this isn't anything new. And we do some departments annually that have us come out on certain times of the year. So, and we do probably 50 or 60 first year seminars, departments, faculty meetings, anywhere that you want us, will be there. As far as mandating it, that's not up to us. We encourage it.
Just to touch on that a little bit too, Lieutenant Hoffman and I personally have gone to different campus departments, and they've requested us to walk through with them. They walk through their action plan, and we provide feedback, and we provide feedback and present possible issues with their plan that they have. So that is something else that's important. The video and the presentation.
All right, next question. Has the DPS provided recommendations to administration, and has administration applied these recommendations?
Yes, quite frankly, and it's not just this. I mean, we meet quite often with the administration in regards to security enhancements. They're always, the administration is always receptive. If it's a major priority for us, they'll fund it. And a perfect example is the 150 external cameras that we're installing. I mean, this has been a goal for several years, obviously. And years ago, when all the cameras were installed, the main objective was the protection of property. So most of them were internal. Obviously, things have changed over the years, and we wanted external cameras. We applied for several grants over the years, and we were just kind of waiting to see if we would receive those grants or not. The last one, we thought we had a really good chance of being approved for it. We weren't. I think we found out on a Friday. I mentioned it to my boss in the administration on Monday, and they funded it immediately. And those cameras, there's about 150 external cameras. We're going to cover about 80% of our public areas externally. That's up from about 2% that we had before, quite frankly. So yes, that's to me is a major initiative. They recognized it. And they didn't hesitate for the funding of it, you know, when we were unable to find other means to fund it. But yes, and we made other suggestions as well over the years. Another example at off the table back there, the explosive detection canine. We thought we had a need for it. I mean, we have many events here on campus, whether athletic events, student events. We have sitting presidents come here. We have presidential candidates, Congress, governors. That was a need also. They also recognized that need and they didn't hesitate to fund it for us. And as like I said, we try to be very reasonable. I wish I had an unlimited budget. Trust me, with the ideas that we keep receiving from the student staff and my own staff. But yeah, they've been very receptive to anything that we have to offer.
I just want to say the camera initiative was in the works well before the MSU tragedy.
Yeah.
So we're not responsive. We want to get things going when we have an idea and we feel there's a need. Before things happen, we want to be, preventative.
You all set? Awesome. Are we able to send emails or text messages to parents the way that MSU students did? What about international students' parents?
Yes. I mean, parents can sign up. They can opt in for texting to receive all of our notifications. They can also sign up, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. So any notification that we send out, they will get it as well. Same with like international students, they want to, again, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, any notification that we send out, they will receive as well.
I just want to say the purpose of our emergency notification system is for protection. So when we send out alerts to the campus, it's to be protective of campus. It's not an informational source. So there's other ways through the university, once an incident happens, that mechanisms kick in. Like there'll be potentially information on the homepage of the website. Other things will be pushed out, official press releases that'll give more in-depth information. It's limited in characters when we push out either a text or we have a phone call message for preventative or protective information only. So what some people say is, well, I heard an issue that had happened, but I didn't get an alert. Well, you might not. If a police officer made an immediate arrest and there's no other threat to the community, we're not just pushing out information because we don't want to inundate everybody with text that then they'll just turn off the notification. So we want to make sure that it is true for protective action only.
So I've overseen our social media and I just sent an email earlier today, actually about 2 hours ago, saying we were going to have an Instagram account now, so we don't currently have an Instagram.
Twitter, Facebook, I'm sorry.
Twitter and Facebook.
Sorry.
Next week, we'll probably have the Instagram.
It's all the same.
And then putting in that opt-in option, it's a test option. So it's WMU public safety. It's not case sensitive, all one word. And then anybody wants to write those numbers down, it's 226787 or 67283. And it's on our website.
Thank you.
So that's for any non-affiliated Western, so parent, visitor, contractor, anybody wants to sign up to get our alerts, that those are the numbers to text.
We can opt out as well, just to clarify, for that visitor option, well, you have to do that here, so if, we have a lot of parents that like to use that opt-in option, and I know that we personally had conversations with them, and they say they haven't gotten alerts because after a year it expires.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question. What is DPS actively doing to prevent gun violence at WMU?
I don't know if we need to answer that one again. I mean, we investigate crimes. We're out there, we're proactive. If anybody reports if they've seen firearms or has even any information, we'll investigate it. So, I mean, we're a fully functioning police department that does investigations. So if a law changes and our procedures change.
Thank you. Next question. Can all exterior doors on campus be locked? Is there technology to remotely lock these doors? And would that even be helpful?
Almost all of our buildings have card access so that they can be locked down. There's a few that do not, and it's in our future plans to change that. Some of them are older buildings and they're being remodeled. But yes, we can centrally lock those exterior buildings down. Dispatch can do it upon our request, or we have a button down at our old dispatch center that we can also press if we want to lock down all the exterior doors. I'll say any card access entry, whether it's exterior classrooms, whatever, if we hit that button, they all lock down. And the only body that's gonna have access into those areas with cards are law enforcement, nobody else.
What steps can we as the public take to increase the number of officers on campus?
It's a good question. I mean, we encourage the other area law enforcement to drive through campus. I mean, whether it's KDPS, they surround this township. I think that me personally, as the chief, I think the staffing that we have, I mean, we'd always, believe me, I'd love to double it, you know, and have officers at every building 24/7, but it's pretty, I like the number of officers that we have. Currently. It's, we have 33 sworn officers. And I'm pretty happy with the number that we have. We cover everything that we need to cover. Sometimes the events, we have a lot of extra events. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult, especially the larger ones, where we have to rely on our law enforcement partners to assist us to help cover some of those spots, and they do. But as far as we're concerned, I know that over the years, we've increased our numbers by 1 officer or 2 officer. And again, talk about the administration. Lieutenant Bachman talked about Officer Allers, who's the officer that's assigned, works for us, that's assigned to the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety CPO unit, whose area of responsibility is off campus. That was something that I brought to the administration. I thought that it'd be great because we were asked all the time, what do we do for students that live off campus? And we really didn't have an answer. That's what we do. I'm not aware of any other university law enforcement agency in the nation that has an officer assigned to a similar unit to another department than ours. But like I said, when I approached the administration to fund 1 more officer for that position, they did so without hesitating.
So I can tell you, we're at the highest level we've ever been. I started here a number of years ago, and we had in the 20s, and we have like 10 more officers than we did back then. And our enrollment was much greater back then than it is now. So we have more coverage now, not to say that it wouldn't be beneficial to have more. But, you know, we're also highly trained. It's one thing that the university administration really pushes is our training budget. There's things that we go to that no other police department goes to. And we start that when I was with the department. So I think we're very capable. And we're the only jurisdictions around that doesn't have any vacancies. So it's.
And just a couple other things as well. I mean, when you talk about the officers and how well trained they are, one thing that we have now that really we never had before up until probably 7 years ago or so, we have 4 of our officers that are assigned to the Metro SWAT team. So they get specialized training on weapons and response. So if something were to happen here on campus, they have that amazing training. We have a drug enforcement, a DRE, drug recognition enforcement officer that's trained with our department. Only 1 in the county. We have 2 explosive detection dogs here at Western. They're the only ones that in the county. So, I mean, we have so many different things within the university, and our officers are trained specially for.
We also have a detective that's attached to the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. So they're able to be plugged into a lot of information, a lot of intelligence to help us anything that could be upcoming or a potential threat to campus.
Okay, well, can you clarify this for me? Are we 2 of 6 canines, explosive detection canines in all of Southwest Michigan? Okay.
All right, so we have time for about 2 more questions. I'm going to ask this question for both. It'll make sense in a second.
Okay.
Are there different policies or procedures for Parkview? Building is a long hallway, not much cover. I'd also appreciate if you guys would also talk about procedures for the Battle Creek campus as well.
So Parkview is considered kind of an offshoot of Maine. We actually patrol Parkview campus, Battle Creek, their first responders, Battle Creek PD and fire. So they have their procedures, and a lot of it has to do with FAA regulations as well, because, you know, they're attached to an airport. But they do have protective measures and we do training out there. So all the campuses that are considered WMUX or separate campuses, they have the ability to have me come out and do training, go over emergency procedures and talk about things that they do. As far as the layout of our College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, a lot of people think that like open areas are really more dangerous than closed spaces. I don't really think that. I think it affords you an opportunity to really see what's going on. If you're far, far away from, is that hallway like 200 yards or something? Those wings are like, yeah, you know, that's a long way away. You can see a threat coming a long way away that really can't cause you much danger. I don't see that being an issue, but you know, we do training out there as well, and we do response out there, so.
And just to add, Parkview campus, I know that seems like many buildings out there. Floyd Hall and the soccer field, they're ours. All the other buildings out there and most of that roadway, it's Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety.
I want to clarify something as well too, with having a consolidated dispatch center, and most of our officers are on main campus. They're going to notify all of the agencies available. So if there's a county unit or a city unit that is closer out there, they're going to respond without hesitation. Because they're able to look at the GPS location in every SWAT car to see where the closest is, and that's for the entire.
All right, thank you guys very much. That looks like that's all we have time for today. I can go ahead and welcome up our student body president, Chen Kit-sun, to say some closing remarks.
Thank you, Sam, for leading the entire discussion. Just want to be quick. If you all have any ideas that you want to improve, you want to discuss or give feedback, feel free to reach out to me, wsa-president@wmich.edu. So if any solution and you think like, oh, we want to have a mandatory class for FYE, for example, because we need student voices to push this kind of thing. We can't just rely DPS to just say that we want this, and if it's not a demand, we will never know. So if you think that it's need, reach out to me. We come and formulate come for policy moving forward as well. So that's all I have, and I'll pass it back to Sam.
Thank you, Chain Kid. I'd just like to go ahead and finish up with some thank yous. First, I'd like to thank you all for being here. This was a very good discussion. I'm glad that we did this. Thank you to everyone that asked questions. Thank you to everyone who participated in the Slido. Additionally, I'd just like to thank DPS for coming here today and answering our questions. I hope they weren't too hard. Finally, I'd like to thank Reverend Kathleen Robertson King and Dr. Mary Anderson for speaking at the beginning here. I just have two finishing announcements real quick. First of all, there's currently a mental health fair in the ballroom upstairs. After you guys are done here, go get some swag and free cookies and stuff right up there. Secondly, it is currently student body election season. There are cards in front of you guys if you have not voted already. Thank you so much. My name is Sam Longlet. I have been your moderator for tonight. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being here.
No, thanks for having this. Yeah, like I said, I don't want this just to be a one-time event also. I was gonna,